You listen to the Asa Park podcast.
The Asa Park podcast.
Enhanced games is not about sports. This is about humanity writ large. Like, I'm sorry, this is a podcast. Not everyone can see the sweater that I'm wearing. It doesn't say enhanced games on it. It says enhanced. And we are building a social, a political, a scientific, a cultural, and a sporting movement to enhance humanity. And sport is just one demonstration of that.
Yeah, because this is interesting. So what's the business model? Because what everybody has heard about is the enhanced games, which you have positioned as kind of a competitor to the Olympics, right?
Yeah. So the International Olympic Committee generates about $1 billion in annualized revenue. It has cost them nearly $1 trillion in inflation-adjusted capital expenditure to get to that level, and 120 years. We generate revenue completely differently from the way the IOC does. They sell media rights and ticket sales. We sell the drugs. We develop the drugs. And our business is the business of human enhancement. So right now you can go onto our website, enhance.com. You can join a waiting list to buy the first generation of doctor-prescribed human enhancement drugs. And we are working to develop new drugs, new delivery mechanisms, so that everyone can live enhanced. And according to our research, 85% of American men want to use performance enhancements if they are doctor prescribed and used by champion athletes. And you only need to look at Ozempic and the GLP-1 drugs to see that this is a multi-trillion-dollar market.
Yeah. So this is super interesting. I haven't dug deep enough because I didn't know this. So you are basically a pharmaceutical company in disguise.
Yeah. Not in disguise. I'm very open about it. We are, I believe, the ultimate platform for demonstrating human excellence. And my friend Brian Johnson, who is the founder of Venmo Braintree, who then went on to create Blueprint and is trying to reverse his aging, he's selling nearly $100 million a year in products through Blueprint already. And, there's such a high demand for this. Like, the GLP-1 drugs, people are willing to pay $1,200 a month to get skinny. Because that's a lot cheaper than going to the gym and calorie counting. And I believe that the human enhancements industry will actually be the largest industry of all time, because all the activities of humanity should be profit generating, whether it's building schools or roads or building artificial intelligence. They all generate profit. And where do those profits go? They're consumed by healthcare. That's why the US spent 5% of GDP on healthcare in the 1960s. Today, it's been 17% of GDP. And over that same period of time, GDP has gone up by a factor of 4 or 5. And so healthcare is this endless beast of consumption, because at the end of the day, if you have money, you want to improve your quality of life.
Yeah, and what you are talking about here is curing or preventing disease. I thought that the reason why the healthcare industry was so huge was that all the profits is in not curing, but what's the word? Treating or making it less worse, less bad. Because if they fix you, if they prevent it, there's no money in that. Or it's bad for business.
There's no money in vaccinations, right? There's no money in vaccinations. There's money in chronic disease treatment.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I believe that aging is a disease that we can treat, cure, and eventually solve. And imagine you could take a pill that stopped the aging process. How much would that pill be worth? It would be worth a tremendous amount of money, and you'd have to take it every day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Right. And right now, aging is not considered a disease, legally speaking. Aging is considered a natural part of the human condition. However, disease is socially constructed. So a disease like osteoporosis was invented by legislation in 1996. Mesothelioma, black lung disease, and other side effects of asbestos or coal mining were invented by statute, right? So these diseases were created by law. And so, many things that we consider as ordinary parts of the human condition, such as getting more frail or weak as we get older, I think will eventually be classified as diseases. And as a result, there will be treatments available against them.
Yeah. So if you call, like, it is where you are in the hierarchy. So if you say that diabetes is a disease, but you want to say that like the thing causing diabetes, that's the disease, and that's what we need to treat. Yeah.
And until we legally recognize that aging is a disease, then until we do that, we cannot have treatments for aging. And I believe, we all suffer from aging in one respect or another, and we should be able to create treatments. And so why the enhanced games is so powerful is that it is not that we are going to just create the treatments, we're also going to create the market conditions. So right now, pharmaceutical companies can't invest the money to build new performance-enhancing drugs because there's no core market for it. You can't use it on athletes. You can't demonstrate it. So once the first enhanced games happen, then we see we've broken all the world records. The drugs really work. And then every American, in particular middle-aged men, will wake up and say, wait a minute, a 40-year-old just ran faster than Usain Bolt. What drugs is he on, and how do I get it? And I don't care how much it costs, right? And then that creates a market. It creates market conditions by which then pharmaceutical companies will say, hey, there's a lot of market opportunity here, so let's spend the R&D dollars to develop the next generation drugs, which will make our athletes faster, will break more world records, and this creates a multi-trillion-dollar market overnight.
This is interesting because from what I've heard, when it comes to stuff like testosterone and the steroids, there hasn't been that much innovation since the 70s, since the Russians were cheating.
Yeah, exactly. So why hasn't there been innovation? Well, the innovation stopped when the World Anti-Doping Agency was invented in the 1980s by Dick Pound. And so why would you invest billions of dollars to develop a next generation steroid when it can't be used by athletes? And now it can be, and we'll prove that it works by showing athletes faster, particularly ones that are older. And then suddenly, this is going to create a multi-trillion-dollar marketing opportunity, right? We didn't think that there was a market for drugs to make us skinny or suppress our appetite. But as soon as Ozempic came to market, it's well recognized that now we have a multi-trillion-dollar market. And, get this through your mind. Obesity is going to be cured globally. Yeah. When Ozempic goes off patent in India, Thailand, and China next year, we will see how a drug that's now $1,200 a month is going to go down to $6 a month. And it's going to be accessible by everyone. It's still another decade before it goes off patent in the United States. But in India, China, Thailand, and in a few Southeast Asian countries, patent timelines are much shorter. And so we're going to see how this drug that it should be used by a quarter of the population is effectively going to cure obesity.
Yeah. It's interesting. You have a lot of these peptides and stuff now. I don't know how, I'm guessing you're very familiar with this. And I have a lot of friends who are deep into this stuff. And these things, from what I understand, they're not even recognized by European authorities. At least they don't even say they classify it as illegal because they don't know they exist. Who are doing the innovation on those things now?
Well, peptides are largely a response to the banning of key substances like anabolic steroids. Because the drugs that actually work, anabolic steroids, testosterone, and EPO, are banned, then there's been this innovation in peptides because some of them aren't banned, some of them are classified as dietary supplements. There are none that are FDA approved as far as I know, or EMA approved. And so, I don't tend to give much credence to peptides because I know there are three classes of drugs that really work. It's androgen anabolic steroids, it's EPO, and testosterone. Three drugs that have been around for more than 100 years. The toxicology, the drug-on-drug interactions are very well known. And even the 1939 Nobel Prize was awarded for the synthesis of testosterone. We're talking about Nobel Prize winning science here against, things that are basically cooked up in a Chinese laboratory.
Yeah. Are you on steroids yourself?
Well, I'm a CEO. I'm not an athlete.
You want to optimize.
And I want to optimize, but there are things that I can optimize for as a CEO, which are different from optimizing as an athlete. And so, for example, I suffer from jet lag very badly.
Yeah.
And every time I get back to my home in London, I walk across the street to Harrods, the fancy department store, and I get an IV drip with vitamins and minerals, costs a few £100. And it turns out that is a banned procedure under the World Anti-Doping Code. I would get banned from elite sport for using an IV drip that I can get at Harrods.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I'm guessing the reason why they've banned that is to try to get people to cut less weight in these weight class sports. For example, the UFC.
No.
And wrestling and stuff. Isn't that
no? So the reason why it's banned is because an IV drip is a very effective way to beat the drug tests. So if you just get a saline drip, you're effectively diluting your blood.
Yeah, of course.
Which would reduce the level of various indicators that are floating around in your system. And so it's a banned procedure, which is crazy that you can get this at Harrods.
Yeah, 100%. And okay, this was an interesting start. So what you are saying is basically that the Enhanced Games is kind of an ad for what you're really about, which is being a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah. So Nike isn't a shoe company. It's a running company. And the idea of Nike is that you buy these shoes and they make you run faster.
Yeah, but they don't arrange their own competitions, not at that level, at your level at least.
Well, Red Bull does, right? Red Bull gives you wings. So what do? They break world records, etc. And there are three kinds of sports marketing. There's endorsements, correlation, and causation. So like Michael Jordan buys a pizza chain. That's merely an endorsement. It's not very effective. Correlation, it's like the Nike shoes. You think that they make you faster, but they actually don't. That's very effective. But the most effective sports marketing is causation, right? The product or service that you buy actually makes you better. So like the Nike Alpha Flies that Eliud Kipchoge used to break the 2-hour marathon record, right? They sold $6 billion of shoes overnight. Yeah. And because they actually make you faster. And the performance enhancing drugs are the most tangible version of this that exists. They actually work, right? That's why they're banned. They actually work. And I believe that the whole anti-aging movement has been held back by sports bureaucrats like Travis Tygard because they're trying to preserve the purity of sport, but they've actually stopped technological innovation in the entire sector. And this is the pernicious consequence of the European regulatory mindset. When you stop innovation in one sector, it has knock-on effects. Imagine if, 50 years ago, universities said, we're not going to allow students to use typewriters because there's something authentic about handwriting your papers and exams. Yeah. Right? I went to Oxford, a very old-fashioned institution, and my professors would say this to me. Some of them, even as late as 2009, mandated that we handwrite all of our essays, right?
Yeah, I know.
And if all universities acted like Oxford, well, we wouldn't get the typewriter, then we wouldn't get the word processor, then we wouldn't get the computer, then we wouldn't get the internet, then we wouldn't get artificial intelligence, right? And so because the monopoly power that the IOC has, by them banning drugs in their competition, stifled innovation on a global scale, and it's probably had, a massive multi-trillion-dollar chilling effect on global innovation.